The war was over. Smoke still rose from the broken fields. Bodies lay still. Machines of death stopped buzzing. And yet, in the middle of it all, stood one man, Commander Rex Varan, the human who had ended a bloodbath with his courage. Aliens and humans watched in silence as Rex removed his helmet. His face was bruised, his uniform was torn, but his eyes were calm. He had fought not for glory, but for peace. Cheers erupted around him. The alien leaders, tall and glowing in strange armor, stepped forward. One of them, the High Warlord of the Valen race, raised a clawed hand to silence the crowd. "You have proven yourself, human," the Warlord growled. "You have saved your allies, even protected our wounded. For this, you deserve a reward." Rex didn't ask for one. He didn't fight for gifts, but then they brought the cage. 2 guards rolled in a metal container. Inside it was a girl, an alien girl. She had grayish-purple skin that shimmered faintly under the lights. Her body was slim and young, barely past teenage years by human looks. Her silver hair was dirty, tangled around her face. Her eyes were big but full of fear. She didn't speak. She didn't even cry. Her hands were chained behind her back. Her ankles, too. She looked broken. The crowd grew quiet again. Rex narrowed his eyes. "This is your prize," the Warlord said with pride. "A personal slave, pure-blooded Arcanite. She was captured young, never touched, yours now." The girl flinched at those words. Rex's fists clenched. He walked forward slowly, boots crushing dust and ash. He knelt down and looked her in the eyes. She looked back. No words, just silence and fear. "She has no name," one guard said. They didn't give her one. Rex didn't speak for a moment. Then, in front of everyone, he reached into the cage. The girl flinched. He didn't touch her. He touched the lock instead. He pulled a small tool from his belt and opened the cuffs. 1, 2, 3. All. Chains fell to the ground. The guard shouted, "What are you doing?" The alien leaders stood up in anger. One of them hissed, "She is your reward." Rex turned to them, calm but firm. "I don't take slaves," he said. "Not now. Not ever." He turned back to the girl and spoke softly. "You're free now." She stared at him in shock. Her lips trembled. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. The guards tried to step forward, but Rex stood tall and blocked their way. "If anyone tries to touch her again," he warned, "you'll face me." The alien leaders were confused, angry, but they saw the fire in Rex's eyes. He wasn't making a scene. He was drawing a line. The girl didn't run. She stayed in the cage, sitting still, too shocked to move. So Rex stepped inside. He offered her a hand. At first, she looked at it like it was another chain, then slowly, carefully, she placed her hand in his. He helped her stand. The crowd was silent. No one could believe it. He wasn't just freeing her. He was treating her like a person. Rex guided her out of the cage. She leaned on him, her legs too weak. But he never let go. He held her with care. The guards looked away, ashamed. The leaders remained quiet. Rex turned to them one last time. "Your peace treaty is signed," he said. "Now start acting like you want peace." Then, without another word, he walked away, through the battlefield, through the dust, with the alien girl beside him. She looked at him again. Her lips moved. "Why?" she whispered. It was the first word she had spoken in years. Rex smiled gently. "Because no one should live in chains," he answered. And with that, the legend of the human who refused the slave and chose kindness instead began. The ship. Door opened with a soft hiss. Warm lights filled the room inside. It was small, clean, and quiet, very different from the battlefield where they had come from. Rex stepped in first, then he turned around and looked at her. She was standing just outside the ship, still barefoot, still confused. Her hands were free now. Her face was washed. but the fear that was still in her eyes. "Come in," Rex said gently. "It's safe." The girl looked behind her. The huge alien arena was far now. No one chased her. No one called her back. She was truly unchained. She could run if she wanted, but she didn't. Slowly, she stepped forward, into the ship, into a new world. Rex showed her a small seat. She sat down quietly. She kept her head low as if waiting for punishment. He noticed her flinching every time a door moved or the lights blinked. She was used to fear. He walked over to a cabinet, took out a clean blanket, and handed it to her. She didn't take it at first. "It's yours," he said, placing it over her, shoulders without touching her skin. She wrapped it tightly as if afraid someone would steal it. Rex sat across from her. Not too close. Just enough to be near. "You're safe now," he said again. Still, she said nothing. He didn't push. He knew some wounds took time to speak. He left her in peace and went to prepare food. A few minutes later, he returned with a warm bowl of soup. She looked at it, then at him. "No tricks," Rex promised. She reached out with shaking hands. Her fingers brushed the bowl. She sniffed it like a wild animal checking for poison. Then, slowly, she took a sip. Her lips trembled, but she didn't stop drinking. That was the first meal she'd had in weeks. That night, Rex offered her the bed. She refused. She curled up on the floor in a corner. He didn't argue. He gave her space. But he placed a soft pillow beside her and dimmed the lights. In the silence of that small room, he whispered, "You can sleep as long as you want. No one will hurt you." She didn't answer. But for the first time in years, she slept. The next morning, Rex woke to a soft noise. He looked toward the corner and saw her sitting up, watching him. Her eyes were wide, filled with questions. He sat up too. "Morning." She stayed silent, but didn't look away. "Do you remember your name?" he asked. She opened her mouth, then stopped. She tried again. "Vena," she whispered. It was the first time she had said it aloud in years. Rex smiled. "Vena," he repeated. "That's a strong name." She didn't smile, but her shoulders relaxed slightly. "You can stay here as long as you want," he said. "Or, if you want to leave, I won't stop you." Vena looked at the door, then back at him, and then... She shook her head. She stayed. Later, that day, Rex helped her clean up. She found a small mirror and stared at her own face. Her cheeks were thin, her lips dry. Her silver hair was tangled and uneven. She didn't recognize herself. But when Rex returned carrying a comb and clean clothes, he didn't look at her like she was ugly or broken. He looked at her like she mattered. She turned her face away, hiding her blush. "No one ever helped me before," she whispered. "Not without wanting something." Rex's voice was calm. "Then it's time someone did." That evening, as the stars blinked outside the ship's windows, Vena sat by Rex while he adjusted controls. "Why didn't you keep me, like a slave?" she asked suddenly. Rex paused. Then he looked at her. "Because that's not who I am," he said. "And that's not who you are." She looked down. "I don't know who I am anymore." "You will," Rex promised. "You're free to find out." And in that quiet space, something began to heal. The ship hummed gently through the stars. Outside, the galaxy sparkled with light. But inside the ship, silence ruled. Vena sat by the window. Her hands held a warm cup of herbal tea Rex had made. Her silver hair was now brushed and soft. Her face had color again, but her eyes still looked like they were lost. Rex watched from a distance. He didn't speak. He didn't stare. He just stayed close enough for her to know she wasn't alone. It had been 3 days since she spoke her name, and since then, she hadn't spoken another word, not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't know how. She had forgotten what her voice sounded like. That evening, Rex sat down across from her. A small device was in his hand. He placed it gently on the table. It was an old music player. He pressed a button. A slow, soft melody filled the ship. It was a human song. No words, just calm notes. The kind that made you feel something deep inside. Vena turned toward the sound. Her fingers tightened around the cup. "What is it?" she whispered suddenly. Rex looked up in surprise, not because of the question, but because of the voice. It was the second time she had spoken. He smiled, gently. "It's a song, from my home." Vena blinked. "It's beautiful." Her voice was soft, shaky, like a child learning to speak. Rex nodded. "So is yours." Her cheeks turned light purple. She looked away. No one had ever called her voice beautiful before. Later that night, Rex showed her how to use the ship's library. She looked through images of different worlds, animals, even food. She paused at a picture of a forest, green trees, blue sky. "I want to go there," she said. "You will?" Rex replied. "When you're ready," she smiled. "Just a little." The next day, while Rex worked on the engine, Vena entered the control room. She was holding something in her hand, a thin ribbon. "Can I tie your arm?" she asked softly. Rex looked confused. "Why?" "In my culture," she said slowly, "it means protection. For someone who helped us." Rex nodded and rolled up his sleeve. With careful fingers, Vena tied the ribbon around his arm. "There," she said. "Now you're protected." Rex looked at it with pride. "Thank you." Vena stood silently for a moment. Then, without warning, she stepped closer. Her hands trembled as she placed something else on the table. It was a small wooden carving, a bird. It looked like it had been cut from an old spoon. "I made this," she said. "You carved this?" Rex asked, amazed. She nodded. "When I was a prisoner, I used to hide scraps. I made birds. I dreamed of flying." Rex picked it up gently. "It's beautiful," he said again. Vena looked down. Her lips trembled. "I don't know why you freed me," she said, her voice cracking. "But thank you." A tear fell down her cheek. Then another. Rex stood up and walked around the table. Slowly, gently. He didn't touch her. He just sat beside her and said, "You never needed chains. You just needed someone to believe you could fly." For the first time in her life, Vena cried not from pain, but from hope. That night, Rex found the small bird on his bed. Next to it, a note written in shaky handwriting. "Thank you for giving me back my voice." The ship floated quietly in orbit above a peaceful moon. Its light shone through the window, casting a soft glow over the small room. Vena stood in front of the mirror, holding a plain shirt in her hands. Her reflection stared back, clean, calm, but not free, not fully. Rex was in the hallway, fixing a power unit. She could hear his quiet humming. She looked toward the door. Then slowly she turned around and removed the shirt she wore. Her fingers touched her upper back, and then her eyes filled with tears. The scar was still there, a dark brand burned deep into her skin, a circle with cruel symbols, the mark of ownership. When Rex returned, he found Vena sitting quietly on the edge of the bed. She didn't look up. He could feel something was wrong. "Vena?" he asked gently. She didn't answer. But then she stood up. Her hands trembled. Her voice cracked. "There's something I need to show you." She turned around slowly, pulling her shirt down from the back. Rex froze. There, on her pale skin, was the burn mark. Old, twisted, angry. He stared at it in silence. Vena didn't move. She thought he would be disgusted. She thought he might step back. But he didn't. Instead, he knelt down, reached into his med kit and gently placed a warm healing pad over the scar. Her eyes widened. "You're not afraid?" she whispered. No, he said softly. But I am angry. Why? Because they did this to you. And no one stopped them. Tears slid down her cheeks again. You did. Rex sat beside her on the floor. He didn't ask questions. He just listened. Vena told him the truth, how she was taken at age 6, how she was branded as property of the upper vault, how the chains were just the beginning, how they broke her body, then tried to break her spirit. They told me I was nothing, she whispered. Just a tool, not a person. Rex's jaw clenched. You were always a person, he said. They just didn't deserve to see it. Vena looked at her hands. But the mark, it's forever. No, Rex said. You're not that mark. You're more. Later, Rex brought her a small device, a scanner. This is a DNA reader, he explained. If you want, I can remove the registry connected to your old slave tag, erase it from every database in the galaxy. Vena stared at it. A part of her was scared. What if she truly became no one? But another part, the stronger part, nodded. Yes, she said. Do it. Rex activated the scanner. A soft beep filled the room. Identity cleared. Tag removed. Vena let out a shaky breath. She was finally unrecorded, unchained, officially herself. That night, Rex found her outside the ship, sitting. Under the stars, he sat beside her. Do you know what I see when I look at you? He asked. She shook her head. I see someone who survived the impossible. Someone stronger than any warrior I've met. Vena looked up. You don't see the mark? No, Rex said. I see a future. She stared at him, speechless. Then, she leaned her head gently against his shoulder. I want to forget the pain, she whispered. You don't have to forget, he said. Just don't let it define you. And in that quiet moment under the stars, the girl with a branded back felt, for the first time, not like a broken slave, but like a person. It was a quiet night on the mining moon of Kalor 7. Rex's ship was docked beside old cargo vessels, its lights dimmed. The stars were hidden behind thick clouds. Everything seemed peaceful, but someone was watching. 2 pairs of red alien eyes glowed from the shadows between metal crates. They whispered in their native tongue, low, sharp, and cold. She is alive, and, with the human, he stole property from the Vault Lords. He must pay. Inside the ship, Vena sat at the control panel, learning to use the navigation screen. Her silver hair was tied back, her fingers steady. She looked stronger now, not fully healed, but growing. Rex entered with a tray of food. You're learning fast, he said with a grin. Vena smiled softly. Because you teach slow, he laughed. Fair enough. They ate together, talked softly. She told him about her dreams, of building a garden on a green planet, of helping other girls like her, of living without fear. Rex listened, truly listened. But outside, boots were moving across the metal floor. At midnight, Rex went outside to check the fuel lines. The wind was cold. The area seemed deserted. He walked past the ship's side. That's when he heard it, a click. He turned just in time to see a shadow move, and then pain exploded in his side. He dropped to one knee. A blade had sliced into him. He looked up. 3 masked aliens stood over him. One held a dagger. Another carried a scanner. You took what belongs to the vault, the tallest one growled. You broke the rule. She's not a thing, Rex shouted, trying to stand. They kicked him. Back down. She is marked. You know what that means. Then the third one hissed, kill him. Bring the girl back. They raised their weapons, but suddenly, a sharp sound cut through the air. A blaster. One of the attackers fell. The other 2 turned just in time to see Vena, standing at the top of the ramp. Her hands were shaking, but her eyes burned with fire. Get away from him, she screamed. They charged her. She fired again, missed the first one, but hit the second. The third reached her, grabbed her arm, threw her down. Rex roared and tackled the alien, even bleeding. The fight was rough, but together, they won. When it ended, The ground was quiet again. Rex collapsed beside the ship, bleeding badly. Vena dropped to her knees, cradling his head. "No, no, no, stay with me," she cried. "I'm okay," Rex gasped. "I've had worse." She pressed her hands to the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "You shouldn't have come out," he whispered. "I wasn't going to." "Let them take me again," she said, voice shaking. Rex smiled, even in pain. "You saved me. You saved me first," she whispered. Inside the ship, Vena activated the emergency medical kit. She followed instructions. She stitched the wound with trembling hands. She injected him with healing fluid. Rex winced. "Where did you learn that? In the prison? I treated wounds. I just never had someone I cared about survive." Her voice broke. "But you're not dying tonight. I won't let you." He chuckled softly. "Bossy." She wiped tears from her cheeks and nodded. "That's right. And you're not allowed to die until you taste my cooking." He laughed again. "Now I'm afraid." Hours passed. Rex rested. Vena stayed awake, watching over him like a guardian. When morning came, he opened his eyes and saw her asleep in the chair beside him. Even in sleep, her fingers were wrapped around his hand, and he knew one thing. She wasn't a slave anymore. She was his protector, his equal, his light in the shadows. The healing light on the ship blinked softly. Rex lay on the bed, his wound slowly recovering. Vena sat beside him, her head resting against the wall, eyes wide open. She hadn't slept, not because of fear, but because something had changed. The moment she saved him, something deep inside her shifted. She had always been the one needing protection, but now she had protected someone, and she would do it again. Rex groaned quietly, his eyes opened, meeting hers. "You didn't sleep again," he said weakly. Vena smiled. "Neither did you. I was stabbed. I was scared." He smiled through the pain. She stood up and walked to the food replicator. A few minutes later, she returned with soup. "It's not bad this time," she said proudly. Rex tasted it and laughed. "Still tastes like warm glue." Vena smacked his shoulder lightly. "I'll poison the next one." They both laughed. And in that laughter, something pure blossomed. Later that day, they reached the diplomatic station above planet Solarian. A meeting was called. All kinds of aliens were gathered, leaders, nobles, and commanders. Rex had been invited as the honored guest, but he brought Vena with him. As they walked through the long marble hallway, whispers filled the air. "That's the human who freed her. Why is she not wearing chains? She stands beside him, not behind." Vena heard it all. She kept her head high. Her long silver hair was now tied neatly. She wore a simple white robe Rex had given her. It wasn't fancy, but she wore it with pride. At the great chamber, Rex stood before the Galactic Council. An alien noble said, "Commander Rex, you are a guest of honor, but many are confused. You were gifted a rare slave, yet you treat her as an equal." Rex didn't blink. "She's not a slave. She never was." Another alien shouted, "She bears the mark of the vault. She belongs to no one," Rex said, cutting them off. "She is free." Gasps echoed in the room. Then came silence. Vena stepped forward. Her voice shook, but she spoke. "I was taken when I was 6. They called me weak. They burned me, caged me." She held up her arm. "But this man," she said, pointing to Rex, "he saw me, not as a thing, but as a soul." Rex looked at her, surprised. He didn't expect her to speak, but now she was glowing, literally glowing. The old mark on her back had faded in color. Rex stepped forward. "In my world," he said, "there is a law. When a man takes someone under his protection, and they share their lives, their fears, and their strength, They become more than friends. He turned to Vena. Under the stars I make that bond now. Gasps again. You mean marriage? One alien asked, confused. Yes, Rex said. By human tradition, I claim her not as a slave, but as my wife. Silence. Then murmurs. Then a loud voice said, That breaks 20 interstellar codes. Then, change the codes, Rex replied. Because no law will stop me from standing beside her. Vena's lips parted. Tears welled in her eyes. But this time they weren't from sadness. They were from being seen, chosen. She stepped toward Rex and nodded. I accept, she said softly. If your people allow it, I want to be your wife. Outside, after the council ended in chaos and debate, the two sat beneath the dome, watching the stars. Rex reached out. Vena took his hand without hesitation. I didn't know if I would ever be free, she whispered, but I never imagined being loved. He looked at her with soft eyes. You're not alone anymore. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I think, she said, smiling. The stars just got brighter, and they sat together, not as prisoner and rescuer, but as equals, as partners, as something far deeper than anyone could understand. 5 years later, the galaxy had changed, not with war, not with weapons, but with a story of a girl who was once chained like an animal and the human who refused to accept it. Across the stars, they now called her Queen Vena. But she wasn't. Born into power, she earned it through courage, pain, and healing. Beside her stood Rex Voran, once just a soldier, now the first human in history to become a royal consort to an alien leader. But to him, titles meant nothing. He only cared about the woman who once slept on a ship floor, too afraid to dream. Now, she stood taller than anyone else in the grand Hall of Unity. The hall was filled with delegates from 300 planets. The occasion? The signing of the new Galactic Freedom Pact, a law that banned slavery forever in all connected systems. This law had one name written across it in bold, Vena Voran. As she stood on the stage, a silver robe flowing behind her, she looked over the crowd. There were alien girls watching from balconies. Some were born free, some were not. But now they all had hope. She cleared her throat, and then she began. There was a time when I had no name, no voice. I was a tool, used and passed around. They told me I was property. They said I had no future. She paused. Then a man came. He didn't fight me. He didn't order me. He untied me. Her eyes found Rex in the front row. He gave her the softest smile. And that moment changed the galaxy. After the ceremony, they stood together on the sky balcony. The stars were glowing. Music echoed in the distance. You were perfect, Rex said, holding her hand. Vena chuckled. I was shaking the whole time. You're allowed to shake as long as you don't fall. She leaned her head against his chest. I still remember the cage, she whispered. I remember unlocking it, Rex replied. And now look at
us.
He smiled. They wanted to reward me with a slave. I ended up with a queen. She grinned. I wanted to forget everything, but now I tell my story to give others a chance. Later that week, they visited a recovery center for rescued slaves. As they walked through the halls, Vena saw a young alien girl sitting alone in the corner, arms wrapped around her knees. She walked over and sat beside her. What's your name? Vena asked gently. The girl looked up with scared eyes. They never gave me one. Vena smiled. Then you will choose it for yourself. The girl looked confused. You are not a thing, Vena said. You are a person. You are not alone anymore. The girl's lips trembled. But how do I start over? Vena took her hand, the same way I did. One step, one breath, and one person who believes in you. That night, back at their home, Vena sat with Rex on a quiet hill, away from cameras and crowns. "I don't care if they call me Queen," she said. "You'll always be Vena to me." Rex replied. "The girl with scars," she added. "The girl who turned her scars into stars," he corrected. She leaned closer, her voice soft. "I don't want gold or thrones. What do you want?" She smiled. "This." She placed his hand over her heart. "You." And in that moment, the girl who once wore chains, now wore love like a crown, the human who untied her, now ruled her heart, not with power, but with kindness, and the galaxy would never be the same again.